Hi, everybody. Hi, guys. Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, that really improves a bad situation for you guys. Having a look at this. I want to open with a disclaimer that you should all know that I don't know what I'm doing or why they asked me to do this. I'm not a pastor. I've never done this before. So I hope I don't blow it too badly. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here on behalf of the Croys and the Joneses. And thank you to Meg and Amanda and Carly and Julia for putting this event together and making such a beautiful tribute to Kat today. And thank you to Flappers for making the venue available. I know it means a lot to Kat to be back here. A lot of us were here a number of years ago to watch her and Brian say their vows and declare their love for one another. And so it's very fitting to be back here with everybody today. So that said, good afternoon, everybody. And I mean that, good afternoon, as in happy, as in look at this room and all of you, us here to share our love for Kat. That's what today is about. So thank you for coming. And I'm just going to put this out there. Sorry that I'm reading this. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm just going to put this out there that I know that many of you are calling her Kathryn these days. Some of you early Cat folk probably called her Kathy for a long time. Oh. Well, Kathy's what she went by when I first met her in college. And we were classmates and friends during college, but years later when we became roommates, she quickly informed me that she was now going by Kat because according to sexy post-college party Kat, Kathy was a fat girl name. No offense to any Kathys in the room. Obviously, she wasn't talking about you. When I first moved into her apartment, we'd been college classmates. We'd never hung outside of class or maybe an occasional lunch break, but I had no expectations. We didn't really know each other. It was just a situation that worked out, and we knew that we were both cool, and I needed a place to live. I had no clue that I was stepping into one of the most fulfilling and genuine friendships that I've ever known. Kat was fun, magnetic, always an easy laugh, and she held on to those little in-jokes that you develop over time as friends. For years, she would make fun of me for the time that I thought nobody was home, and she heard me singing Chocolate Rain in the shower like an idiot. Or when she lifted a half-expired 12-month dog calendar from a celebrity's house at an after party, which featured what could only be described as erotic dog poetry with each month. She kept that thing in the house for 4 years past its expiration date just to regale our guests with the finest in erotic dog poetry. And she would make me read it. Well, one day after I thought maybe the joke had run its course and I was cleaning up the apartment, I threw it away. And she didn't find out for a few months, but when she went to, bust out the old joke, she was very upset to find out that I'd done that. And that's something that I still regret to this day. Certainly, you don't expect those little things to be what you think back on and when you lose somebody. Kat was no holds barred. I never met anybody who had so little trouble telling it like it is. I can't I can't tell you how many late nights there were in that Burbank apartment playing Scrabble and griping about life's difficulties. Whenever I'd be trying to take the easy way out, Kat's lazy bullshit compass would always be there to help point me back to north. Usually accompanied by her favorite mantra, crazy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. With Kat, you always got the hard truth, usually followed by a dick joke or a Simpsons quote. And it was just that way for her. Life was to be enjoyed, laughed at, even while you're in the thick of it. And that's the part where it all goes off the rails. I didn't know what else to write, but she was in the thick of it. And she never lost everything that made her special. And she fought hard to be here for every one of you that's here today. And for you, Scarlett. Ooh, I've been on this the wrong way the whole time. Hi, sweetie. She was a fighter, and she was one of the funniest people I've ever known. And, I don't know what else to say about her than that. But I know that she would be really happy to see the turnout today. And to know that she was so loved by everybody. So, the name of keeping things moving, I'd like to invite Denise up to the stage to say a few words.
Hi, I'm Denise. I'm the middle of the 5 kids. This is very tough. Let's see if I can get through this. Okay, so as I was writing what I wanted to say about Kathryn, I glanced at the top of my journal and read the quote. It said, "From the depths of your own heart, admire your own virtuous actions and those of others. Take joy in the things you have done in this lifetime." That was Kathryn. She always wanted you to be proud of your own accomplishments and be proud of everyone else's. Be happy. Be strong. Throughout the last 2 years, I spent a lot of time with Kathryn. During that time, I witnessed strength like no other. Every day was a battle for her. I did everything and anything to help her get through those dark, challenging times. And I even did her gross dishes. And she said, "Denise, you must really love me because I know you hate doing dishes." And her bathtub. And yes, she was right. I loved her with all my heart. She showed me what love, strength, courage, and friendship truly was. Dear Kathryn, I already miss our movie quotes, our laughs, our stupid jokes, and talks. You have made me one very proud sister. But I guess God needed more angels because he took you way too soon. I know you are finally at peace and not suffering any longer. I knew she hid a lot. I know a lot of you thought it was a little shock. It was a blessing and a curse to know everything and anything about her, about the cancer, because I knew everything, but she just didn't want people to know. I spent every minute that I had with you visiting, cleaning, talking, traveling, playing, and researching IBC, inflammatory breast cancer. And the only regret I have is that I wasn't able to find something to help you get better. Your legacy will live on. Be legendary. Leave a mark. She would always say, you will never be forgotten. You are a part of me. You are not only my sister, but my friend. Until we meet again, Kathryn, I love you with all my heart. And I want to thank my husband, who has supported me and encouraged me to spend as much time as I could with her. And I want to thank all her friends, especially Meg, Amanda, and Carly, but mostly Garrett, for unconditionally loving my sister. And I truly thank my sister for introducing us. And because of you, Kathryn, I now donate to the IBC network so that hopefully they will be able to find a cure for this horrible disease. Rest in peace, Kathryn. I love you. Thank you.
So I'd like to invite Kat's father, Mike, up to the microphone.
Well, I'm going to try. This is actually a wonderful turnout here today. It's actually a wonderful tribute to our daughter. And I want to thank all of you for all the love, the support, and for your contributions for the online GoFundMe pages. After a brief discussion, oh, wait a minute. I ain't even done with that page. Oh. Not long ago, my wife and I went to Chicago to attend a funeral of a lifelong friend of mine that I've known for almost 60 years. We grew up together in the old neighborhood, and we were like brothers. His passing was very painful for me. Kathryn's passing is almost unbearable. This by far has been the saddest part of my life. If there's any solace in this sorrow, it was the 8 days that Kathryn, Brian, Ellie, Scarlett, Jenny, and myself spent at the Aulani Disney Resort in Hawaii just this last September. When Kathryn was first diagnosed with this terrible disease, she told us of the long road of treatments that she'd be facing. Then I thought of an incentive to help her through all those dark days. We're a family of Disney freaks. I've had passes for years and years. I knew that more than anything else in life, Kathryn wanted to go to Aulani, but she could ill afford it. It was her dream, and it was on her bucket list. After a brief discussion with my wife, I asked her to go to our travel agent and see what it would cost for a family of 6 to make the 8-day trip. Not only did Jenny return with the information, she came back with the reservations. I said, go look. So we scheduled the trip for 1 year later because Kathryn had all these chemos and other medical procedures to go through. So we put it 1 year out to give her that incentive. Well, when Jenny came home with the reservation, I took a picture of it. And I texted to Kathryn along with the caption, "For when you are cancer-free." My phone rang immediately. Kathryn was ecstatic, overjoyed, and almost in tears. She couldn't wait. She counted the days until our departure. Sadly, just prior to that vacation, we learned that the cancer had spread. As disappointing as the news was, Kathryn refused to let it get her down. She let it be known that the word cancer was not going to be used on this trip. We enjoyed that wonderful 8-day stay. The memory of that time shared with the Jones family will stay with me forever. Page 3. Now listen, I wrote all this stuff myself. Yeah. The name tags that my wife and I are wearing were made special for Kathryn's birthday party, which was on February 23rd. What a special occasion that was. I would like to thank the people who planned, organized. I know, Shannon, you were a part of it, but I don't know of anybody else that was a part of it. All the people that planned it, organized it, worked so hard to make that a big success, including the contributions of the vendors, the Hyatt Regency up at Santa Clarita, and the entire Scorpion team. And also, I'd like to give some recognition and special thanks to my niece, Julia Stander. She was never but a phone call away when any help was needed. Thank you, Julia. Also, special recognition to my daughter, and I probably can't repeat all the things that she said about helping her out with the medical. She became Kathryn's medical manager, handling her appointments, prescriptions, and she spent a ton of time with her and took off from her classroom to be with Kathryn and assist her. I don't know of anyone else who could have done what you did, Denise. We love you for it. Kathryn is blessed because she has a ton of friends. Some of you I've met, some I haven't. Some I wouldn't remember if I met you or not. See, now you see where Kathryn gets her sense of humor. However, there's 5 of her friends that have made a deep impression with me. Garrett, Shannon, Amanda, Carly, and Meg. All you guys spent hours, some days, camping out at the hospital to keep Kathryn company so that she would never be alone. You guys slept in chairs, benches, and even on the floor for almost 11 days that Kathryn was in ICU. that is absolutely amazing. Page 4. Brian, I would just like to say that I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for my loss as well. Finally, I believe it was back in January when 12 of our family members spent a weekend in a cabin up at Wrightwood so the grandkids could go in the snow, play in the snow. At that time, it was apparent that Kathryn's health was failing. She knew she was not going to win her battle. Seeing the deep concern on my face, she said to me, "Dad, don't be sad." I think the appropriate thing here to do right now is to pass Kathryn's words all on to you. Don't be sad. Thank you. Is my wife next, or are you going to? Oh, you're the MC, right? Can I get a piece of the action?
I'd like to invite Jenny up to the stage now.
I could have done that.
That's because, hello. That's because I was undecisive. Women have that choice. I really do want to thank everybody that came on this beautiful Sunday. I could imagine 101 things to be doing. But to give up your time to be here and to help us celebrate Kathryn's life means a lot to me. I heard a phrase once that we don't get over it. We go through it. I thought someone stole Finding Nemo's phrase. We have to go through, not over. So with all of your help, we're finding a way through this with your love, your cards, and I hope I make this through this. But one thing I take, and it's most important to me, is that Kathryn knew I loved her. I loved her very much. We had a lot of nighttime, midnight to 3. I'm a night owl. She was too. And so we'd play Scrabble with a few messages in between. And we had a lot of mother-daughter talks. And I'm kind of glad it was that way because her voice was failing. So her texting, which her writing is amazing. And I really got to know her more. I feel like lucky that I have a lot of the daughter-mother experiences with her, from brownie outings to watching her perform at school talent shows. She had a beautiful voice, as we all know from karaoke, and her class performances. Being a teacher, I could find myself going to these with a little bit of planning. At least teachers do have a life outside the classroom. She learned karate with her brother and Damien and a couple of others, and I'd watch them practice out in the front yard. And that helped in middle school. Everybody knew you don't touch or mess with Kathryn. In high school, she seemed to be partners in life. because all of her siblings had moved out, and she was like an only child. We contacted each other through her $2 a month pager, which I finally broke down and got her. And then later her cell phone, which she got in trouble for having at school, and I went to bat for her. I needed to get a hold of my daughter. If I was delayed from school to pick her up, I would just page her or leave her a message. Sometimes when I got there, I'd watch her badminton practice, her cheerleading practice, or whatever she was in at the time. She liked having a live-in math tutor. So did her friends. In 1999, she made the cut for USA All-Stars in cheerleading. And she came home one time and she was like, well, I tried, Mom. I says, well, you gave her your best. Don't worry. She goes, I made it. I tell you, she always had something up her sleeve. Which means we were going to Paris. And as you know, we're movie freaks. So now we would say, we'll always have Paris. Anybody want to guess what movie that's from? Casablanca. And she also liked to have a fluent French speaker with her. So we got to go off on our own and see the other things. And then we were supposed to meet up at the Eiffel Tower, and there was this real long line. And she saw her group up, and we just sort of pretended we were late. And so we skimmied up to the front. Good planning. We all became movie buffs. That's how we communicated. It kind of kept feelings at bay, but got our point across. And then we'd see who would name it, who would name the movie. We laughed at a survey that she took in high school. She had to answer, how well did she know her parents? And I was supposed to do the other side, how well do you know your child? We both passed with high marks. Right down to her band and her favorite color. But 1999 was also a sad year for many of us in Kathryn's life because she lost her best friend, Sharon. I spent the next year or so trying to get to know a different Kathryn, a very deeply emotional Kathryn. But again, we made it through, just like we are now, with the help of our friends, family, phone calls. I don't think we had text then. It was 1999. And with everybody checking in on her. College years went quickly. She graduated. No fanfare. Just send me the diploma. I want to get on with my life. She always invited me to many places that she lived. One was a garage that she fixed up beautifully into an apartment. And then she found Burbank. She fell in love with Burbank. And along with that, Brian. To find your love in your life. I'll come to that in a minute. Anyway, I'm glad she did. In conclusion, I just want to add that I always enjoyed being Kathryn's mother. I was always proud of her. She was straightforward, as Nick said. She always said what was on her mind. Once in a while, she'd apologize if she offended me. That was her, yeah. She brought humor with her, sometimes without realizing that she was funny. She came over one time and said, there's a 70s theme party. Can I look in your closet? She made a DVD for our 35th wedding. Gosh, that was 12 years ago. 35th wedding anniversary, which will always be special. Those who work at Sardo's know how much she spent on that, I heard. She also dedicated when she was in college, and Denise had to play it for me because Kathryn was in LA. It was Because You Loved Me by Celine Dion. And it was for my birthday. And it's always been my song from her. One time at Sardo's, I messed up singing the song with her at karaoke through the years with Kenny Rogers. And then I apologized if I embarrassed her. She says, no problem. I guess you figure that's Mom. I will miss Kathryn for a long time. I am grateful for all she gave me to live by. And meeting her friends throughout the years has extended our family. This is what I wanted to say. Finding Brian, her true love, is indescribable. Just as I have found Mike of 47, 48, whatever it is, whatever it takes.
I don't remember being single.
That's it, indescribable. But to expand into a family is a blessing. Brian, Ellie, Scarlett, we will continue to help each other work through our lives together in this new world without Kathryn. Although my belief in God has been terribly shaken, my faith in humanity hasn't, as I look out over all these wonderful people who have taken time out of their busy days to be here. I also want to thank everyone, as Mike did, who have been a part of Kathryn's life journey and for being there for Brian and his girls. I love that phrase, Brian and his girls. You all make life easier to handle, one day at a time. Thank you. I love you all.
Feels like a big to do to come up here every time and introduce everybody. But I feel like Kat would, if Kat were here to talk about herself, she'd want to be introduced. So I will continue doing this. We're in Hollywood or Burbank, really. That's how it's done. So I'd like to invite Jeanette to come up and say some words.
Going after so many other people, a lot of this is just going to be on repeat. So forgive me if I repeat what other people have already said. Wow, I was never told to pull the microphone closer to me. It's turned away.
Just shut it off.
Just shut up. The last time I spoke in this room, I was toasting Kathryn as our matron of honor. I never would have imagined we would all be here again under these circumstances. My first thought was that I should write this completely in movie quotes and song lyrics to best tribute Kathryn. But don't worry, I decided against it. When Kathryn was born, we didn't hit it off very well. It took about 20 years for me to appreciate having a third sister. And now I don't know what my life will be like without her. Writing this was difficult. what can I say about her that you don't already know? She loved karaoke and IKEA. She hated nature and avocados, which I don't understand. She loved and lived fiercely. She was a warrior. She had an incredible sense of humor. When she first told me that she had cancer, she promised me that she wouldn't die. And I remember getting that call in September when she said, I don't think I can keep that promise to you. And then I said, please don't die during tax season. But then she didn't keep that promise either. She was hilarious right up into the end, amusing us in her hospital room. When she first got to the ICU, I went to see her. I asked her how she was feeling. She looked at me and she said, I'm not going to say it. And she said, F you. And near the end, when she was kind of in and out, she recognized me in her room and she asked me if I was hungry and did I want to get something to eat. Which is funny because I'm always hungry. She was caring and thoughtful. I watched her become a devoted wife and loving mother. I remember her texting me saying that she met the one. And I remember being there when Scarlett was born. I knew her not just as a sister, but as a friend. She was the kind of friend you could always count on. No matter what you'd tell her, she wouldn't judge. Although sometimes I would get a text, Jeanette, what are you doing? When I was being a bit dramatic, posting too many things, or not taking pictures with my teeth showing. I loved that she kept us all up to date with her journey with creative and inspiring posts. One particular post that has stuck with me was to not complain about going to work, house cleaning, or walking upstairs. She said she would give anything if she had the strength to do those boring and mundane things. I'm really going to miss her unique perspective on life. I'm so glad that I was able to spend a lot of time with her recently. We went to the mountains, as my dad said. We played in the snow. We attended her amazing birthday party. And we went to see one of our favorite movies, Gone with the Wind. And I pushed her in a wheelchair so we could go to her favorite place, IKEA. Well, her favorite place besides Disneyland. She gave the world Scarlett. I see my sister in her. And I feel like a part of Kathryn will live on. We will keep Kathryn's memory alive, share our stories with Scarlett, so she will know how strong and amazing her mother was. There are moments in your life that shape and define who you are. Losing Kathryn is one of those moments for me. All of us share this same loss. I know it's going to take some time to process, but I know she would not want us to be sad. She would want us to find humor in the tragic. I like to finally think of her meeting Kurt Cobain, her lifelong crush. She made me a better person. She was my best friend. She will be in my thoughts every day, and I will miss her terribly. If the sadness does become too much, I follow the advice of Scarlett O'Hara, Kathryn's favorite heroine. I won't think about that now. I'll think about that tomorrow.
If I can invite Robert Broussard up to the stage.
Well, first, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit. I'm Deacon Bob Broussard. I'm an ordained minister in the Catholic Church. But more importantly, I'm Kathryn's uncle. I first want to express my condolences to Kathryn's immediate family, Brian. Where is daughter Ellie at? There she is. And of course, Scarlett. Also, she waving with a foot. Now, mom and dad, and Kathryn's sisters and brother. I'd also like to recognize those that rendered comfort to Kathryn and her family during those last 2 years, and many people have mentioned them. In all my years of ministry, I have never seen such a caring group of friends. Well done. Thank you. You know, we've all followed Kathryn's blog and Facebook over the past 2 years and marveled at her determination, her strength, and courage through her triumphs and her disappointments. Now, obviously, I have a longer timeline of Kathryn's life than most of you. Visiting family in Chicago on Denise's birthday. All the other girls. And in Colton, where she grew up. Catching brief conversations at the Denver airport on a layover. She couldn't stop talking about this great guy she had met, who became her husband, Brian. Following her through her many lifestyle changes as she became an adult, especially when she got married, and then later at Scarlett. And of course, these last 2 years. You guys know this as well as I do. Kathryn could light up a room. She brought joy to us all. Her sense of humor, often in the face of yet another setback, should inspire us all. These last 2 years have also brought out her sense of determination and courage. It's as if she had to pack it all into a very short lifetime and show us how it's done. What a legacy. What memories. I know we'll all celebrate what a great woman Kathryn was, both here and later on. She was truly a good friend, and that will be her legacy. However, I'd like to address all of us here, left behind to grieve the loss of Kathryn, our good friend. I'd like to start reading a verse from Scripture. That's what I do. This one holds a special place in the hearts of the Broussards. That's Jenny's side of the family, and the Croys. I read this at Kathryn's grandmother's funeral. Perhaps Kathryn is right now wrapped in the spirit of her grandmother as we speak. I hope it'll bring you some comfort. It's from John 14. Now, this reading is when Jesus is with his disciples at the Last Supper, and he's already told them that he's going to be leaving them. Here it is. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You have faith in God, have faith also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If there were not, I would have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back again and take you to myself, so that where I am, you also may be. Where I'm going, you know the way. Thomas said to him, Master, we do not know where you're going. How can we know the way? And Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
And so maybe that's the counsel I give you today. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Or, as Mike said, do not be sad. You have faith in God, have faith in Jesus. Ironically, right before this passage in the Bible, Jesus tells his disciples to love one another. That might be what Kathryn's comments would have been. You will have all come together to honor her and celebrate her legacy, her life. Continue to love one another. At the end of a funeral, there's a prayer I say, and I'd like to close with that. So if you'd please bow your heads for the prayer of commendation. Into your hands, Father Mercy, we commend our sister Kathryn, in the sure and certain hope that together with all who have died in Christ, she will rise with him on the last day. Merciful Lord, turn towards us and listen to our prayers. Open the gates of paradise to your servant and help us who remain to comfort one another with assurance of faith until we all meet in Christ and are with you and with our sister forever. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Ellie to come up.
Hi. Yes. I'll try what I can do. I'll try and keep this short, last as long as I can. I've known Kat since I was about 3 years old. My earliest memory of her actually has to do with Chicken Head, of course. I was little, she had made me a sandwich and then gone into the other room. Chicken Head was prowling around the table, and I started feeding him little pieces of turkey, and of course he loved that. She comes into the room and says, no, don't feed him any food. And I turn around and he's jumped up on the table and started eating my whole sandwich. I hope that she gets to play with Chicken Head right now. Kat was very reliable in everyone's time of need. In the smallest time of need, when you just need to get your room cleaned up or do some laundry, or in times like now, when you lose someone close to you. And I know she'd be saying something to me like, if you really want to make it up to me, then go pick up that giant pile of laundry sitting in the middle of your room. Of which it has grown over the past month. Kat was a great mom. She knew just what to say, just what not to say. Whether she ended up saying the wrong or right things on purpose or not, she always said what you needed to hear. she's helped me through my childhood, my middle school career, in which I have been a ridiculous teenage brat. And I remember Kat and I were not exactly on good terms when she first went into the ICU. And in my last visit with her, I feel like we made up, and I'm really glad for that. I remember my dad saying that she had been arguing with me for a little bit to make it so that it wouldn't seem as difficult when she left. And when I heard that, I immediately thought, there she goes again, being that model mom. And this last part is for Kat. Dear Kat, I love you. I miss you so much. And it's going to be really hard without you around. But I'll do my best. I'm going to be doing my speech for my school's 8th grade speech competition on grief, and I'm going to be making sure to tell your story. I'm sorry that I was ever upset at you, and that I ever resented you. You deserved better in the awful things that you were experiencing. I was being a stupid teenager no matter how much I wanted to deny it. I will make sure that I keep my promise to be the best mother figure I can for Scarlett. And that she'll never forget you. Thank you.
You know, that reminds me, for those of us who knew Kat before she ever met Brian and before she had any children in her life, she was always kind of talking about she was never going to get married, she was never going to have kids. And you know, Ellie, you changed her life, and she loved you so much. And it was really astounding for those of us close by to watch her just like step right into those shoes of motherhood, like they were the perfect fit. Like it was crazy. I mean, really, like she was just such a natural at it, and you know, she loves you a lot still. Yeah, and that guy, he does all right. I'd like to invite Deborah Peters up.
I have no idea how to follow that. Ellie, I'm so proud of you. You did such a good job. Thank you. He reminded me before I came up, and I still forgot. Hi. Most of you don't know me, but a lot of you have probably heard about me. I wasn't Kat's family in a traditional sense, and I wasn't her friend in a traditional sense either. I was Kat's co-mom, Ellie's other mom. As many of you know, we got off to a pretty rough start. Lots of laughter from the family up front. Thank you. I appreciate that. Brian too. Yeah, I get it. Kat and I always used to laugh about it as well. We used to refer to them as, over the last few years, referred to them as the dark days. I think Kat summed up our relationship pretty perfectly a couple months ago when she was telling me about her GoFundMe page and asking me if I could sling the email out to my friends and family and see if they could donate. She said, this is an exact quote from her text. You could say, hey, Ellie's stepmom's going through cancer and twice a year. We used to hate each other, but now we're like super cool, so please donate to this. I had over 20 friends and family donate, and I think it was because of that line. I love that we had gotten to the point in our lives where we could talk and openly laugh about our humble beginnings. When I was thinking about what to say today, I was like, I can't tell that story. I shouldn't tell that story. What would Kat want me to say? And I realized she'd want me to tell a funny story. So I'm going to try and get through a funny story. I'd like to tell you about the very first time that I ever heard about Kat Croy. One morning, I picked up Brian to give him a ride to work because he did not have a car. He jumped in my car and he was grinning from ear to ear, bouncing on the seat. I could tell he had something to say. I had no idea what it was. It could have been anything. It could have been a great cartoon that he watched before work. I don't know. So he started telling me this story about something weird that had happened the night before. He told me this crazy hot bartender really liked him. That she was super into him. He was like, no, seriously, she really likes me. I don't know why. She saw me a couple weeks ago at Dollar Beer Night with my friends. And she's been asking about me ever since. I don't get it, but I swear it's true. A little side note to that story, Kat and I were talking about that a few weeks ago. She assured me that she did not ask his friends about him. In her words, she harassed them until they brought him back. Which friends were those, by the way? Yeah. Oh, I see your hand there. Thank you, guys. Thank you for bringing him back to the bar. So anyway, I dropped Brian off at work, and at that time he worked with a mutual friend of ours, Sid. So I got to hear what happened later on in the day. His shock and excitement from the night before was still coursing through his veins, and he would tell anybody that listened about what had happened. These are direct quotes from stories that he told his coworkers that day. It's like you ask your parents for Transformer toys for Christmas, and you wake up in the morning and Optimus freaking Prime is in your bedroom. It's like you just want a pony for your birthday and you get a Pegasus. Shortly after, Brian scrounged up $400 and bought himself a car so that he could take her on their first date. Needless to say, things went pretty well with the Pegasus. Over the next few years, Kat became a permanent fixture in all of our lives. The four of us were co-parenting to the best of our abilities, but those early years were not easy for any of us, except probably Ellie. It's true. Kat verified that. So I remember one of the first things she brought to our parenting group was a tradition called Christmas coffee. Christmas coffee was the one day of year that all four parents plus Ellie would get together and go have coffee on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Kat said that despite our differences, we should get together so that Ellie could experience all of her parents in the same room or something. She said memories like that would be important for Ellie to have. Even during the most tense years, we never missed a Christmas coffee. Ellie always said it was her favorite day of the year, and for weeks after Christmas coffee, Ellie would ask us if we could all five move into a big house together. Kat told me that she actually invited Kat to move into our spare bedroom one time. In full seriousness. Christmas coffee was a testament to Kat's ability to make the best out of absolutely any situation, to fight through adversity with a smile on her face. Anyone who knew us during the dark days would have laughed about the thought of Christmas coffee being a fun time. In reality, it was always a great experience that left all of us smiling. To be perfectly honest, Christmas coffee taught us how similar all four of us were. Turns out we all laugh at the same things. We all make fun of the same things and the same people. Man, is there anything better than making Kat laugh? There's not, right? Anyway, Christmas coffee. We'd all have a great time sitting around laughing. I think we'd all walk into it saying 30 minutes and we are out. We'd stay there for an hour, hour and a half. We'd all laugh, and what it really looked like was my husband Jason, myself, Brian, and Kat sitting around a table laughing really hard while Ellie kind of stared at us silently, open mouthed, trying to figure out what was going on. So Christmas coffee gave us all important memories. As the years went on, we got our footing on co-parenting. Around 5 or 6 years ago, we turned over a new leaf in our relationship. We never talked about all the nonsense that had gone on in the past, because if you know anything about me, or Jason, or Brian, or Kat, none of us are ever wrong. Ever. So with that being said, there was no reason to apologize or rehash everything that had come up, right? We just moved on, and we moved forward as co-parents, and there was never any bitterness about the past. By the time Ellie was 8 or 9, we were actually voluntarily sitting together at school functions and laughing and walking to the parking lot together. And on the day of Ellie's elementary school graduation, Kat made sure that we took a picture arranged in the same order as a picture the 5 of us had taken on the day of her kindergarten graduation. And when Ellie graduates middle school next month, I'll make sure that we stand in the same order. Kat may not be visible in the picture, but she will absolutely be there. She'll be there in Ellie. She'll be there in Scarlett. She'll be there as my co-mom and as our parenting team. Kat, thank you for co-momming the heck out of Ellie with me. We did such a good job. Thanks for the claps. I have some more stuff to say to Kat, but I'm almost done, I promise. Kat, I also want you to know that we're all better because of your love and your humor and your Excel spreadsheet calendars for custody schedules and your tenacity and your sarcasm and your laugh and of course your sense of style. Kat, I promise I will try to learn how to do Ellie's hair for picture day before she graduates high school.
Meg, why don't you come on up?
Sorry. I thought I was okay for a sec. Not really. Okay. Love you. Okay. I've written the beginning of this speech what seems like 1,000 times. How do I begin to sum up Kat? What she meant in my life, her humor, her strength. The list goes on, as you all know. So how can I possibly begin? And the answer is I simply try. So the next few minutes is going to be me trying as hard as I can to remove the suffocating heaviness of Kat's death, and as well as I can, honor a life well spent. Honor a friend who never let me down. I'm only through the first paragraph. Fuck! Excuse me, sorry. Okay. Yeah, it was. Okay. Kat's offered us opportunities that only in her death am I able to see. Because she's shown us that in order to recognize those opportunities, you have to be at your very core in perfect understanding of just how precious life is, how it should be valued and appreciated. The opportunities I'm speaking of are those that turn us away from ourselves and into one another. The opportunities to do for Brian and the girls, who are the absolute lights of her life, anything we can to make her loss just a little bit more bearable. We in this room are bound together by a singular thing, and that is our love for Kat. Now it's up to us to honor that love, appreciate the relationships we all had with her, and turn it into an opportunity to help and love in return. Every day since she's passed, since she's passed, I've asked myself, what would she want from me? And it always comes back to Brian, Ellie, and Scarlett. I hear her voice saying to me, be there for them, but don't push too hard. Love them, but don't try to make it all okay. That we know is a losing battle. And don't let my daughter grow up in a world where she doesn't know who I am. I feel a devotion to them, and that devotion comes from watching Kat for 11 days straight fight for her life with them. And when I say she fought, I'm not sure anyone can possibly comprehend just how hard without witnessing it. It was unbelievable, it was horrific, and it was beautiful. She wanted to be here more than anything. Because here is where her husband and kids are. Here is where her family and friends are. Here is where she wanted to be. I was lucky enough to be there when Kat hugged, kissed, and spoke to her children for the last time. She had jokes for days and was laughing with Ellie and Brian while Scarlett and I made imaginary unicorn cakes.
She held Scarlett and explained to Ellie why she was in the hospital, trying to ease her mind. I took a bunch of photos of her and Scarlett on the bed, and had I known it would be the last time, I wouldn't have put my phone down. 8 days later, we were in the ICU with the brutal understanding that we were inching closer and closer to the end of her life. I wanted to say something to her, figure out how to comfort her in a way that she could hold on to. Something that wouldn't be a discarded thought amongst the fear and pain and psychosis she was experiencing. My fear of scaring her more, my fear of acknowledging her death was near, and my fear that she would see it as a sign I was giving up on her prevented me from saying what I had hoped would ease her just a little. What came out was a mismatched mess of words dissected by fear and never fully put back together. What came out was this, or something along these lines. Kat, you know what I do when I'm anxious? I go to a memory, my favorite one, and I try to relive it. I try to feel what it was like in it and just sit. What I wanted to say was this, or something along these lines. Memories are there for a reason. We store them up and we keep them on standby for when they're needed. And now is the perfect time. What else could moments that felt so good or made us so happy, what else could they be in our minds for if not for to use them to relieve the pain or tame the fear? You can't get any reprieve right now, and you can't settle your mind or body down. Go into that beautiful head of yours and make your own peace. And steal some moments that you were lucky enough to have in this life and take them with you to the next. I won't ever forget the memories you've given me. I promise I'll do my part to ensure Scarlett grows up to know how funny and smart and loving her mom was. How much she loved her, and how being a mother to her and Ellie was the pleasure of her life. I promise to do what I can whenever I can, and those are the opportunities you can be sure I won't miss. I love you, kitty cat. The world is a lot less funny without you in it.
I'd like to invite Amanda up.
Sorry. You never truly understand the moments until you piece them all together. Like a giant puzzle, it's impossible to see the big picture until all the pieces fit. I never understood how important the little moments were. I didn't think that that time at Sardo's held much meaning, or that 4 a.m. conversation at Bob's Big Boy, or enjoying a taco together, or watching bad reality TV together was important. Even with the really important moments, like standing up with Kat on her wedding day. Watching Kat research how to be a mom when she met Brian and fell in love with Ellie. Holding her own daughter Scarlett on her first day of life. Those moments never impacted me on the level that they do now. And surely it was because I thought there would be more moments. That's a hard lesson that I've learned from Kat. Luckily, I didn't learn it too late. I began to understand this during the last 11 days of her life. I started to pay more attention than I've ever paid to a series of moments. I was present. I was open. I was love. I was a mirror. All of those qualities that I was now starkly aware of within myself were merely a reflection of Kat. During her final days of life, all of the qualities that she possessed became magnified. It was as if a veil had been lifted from my head and heart by the magnification of her best qualities. And her best qualities, certainly her truest qualities, shone so brightly. I experienced a connection with another human being that I've never experienced before. I experienced someone trust me with their life and with their afterlife. I watched ego fade, and I saw love invade. Every moment was monumental. Every moment held with care and awareness. So that time I held her hand, and that time I told her a story and guided her through a meditation. That time I told her that I loved her. That meant something. That meant everything. That time she knew she was close to death and asked me and her sister Denise to help her by helping Brian and the girls when she was gone. That meant something. It meant everything. Every moment, big and small, was equal. It was all important. Even the moments outside of Kat's hospital room, the moments of us all there for each other in the hospital while Kat was fighting for her life, and I don't say that in jest. She fought with every ounce of energy she had so she could get out of that room and get back to the girls. Taking turns being on watch so the other person could sleep, coffee runs, glances shared, breakdowns. They meant everything. And now, after her death, everything means everything. The way our community, the community sitting here now because of Kat, has come together. Just everyone look around for a minute. We're all here, and we've been here through it all for each other, contributing, caring, acknowledging, supporting. That is the meaning of life. I've been searching for meaning for quite a while now. I've always suspected that it had something to do with love. Now I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that's all there is. I used to think that vulnerability and loving too much was a sign of weakness within myself. Kat has showed me that vulnerability and love are the strongest of all characteristics. She has showed me what being vulnerable and loving can bring into your life. It can bring you a husband like Brian. It can bring you children like Ellie and Scarlett. It can bring you friendships that endure through impossible experiences. It can solicit help through strangers. It can be the very thing that gives life meaning. As I walked down the hallway of the ICU for the final time, something occurred to me. I was walking with my family. And though Kat wasn't physically walking with us, she was with us. There's no way she couldn't be. Thank you, Kat, for your years of unwavering friendship. Thank you for trusting me and loving me and never judging me. Thank you for the laughter and for letting me in and continuing to hold space for our relationship in your life. I promise that I will always be there for Brian and the girls. I promise that Scarlett will always know how much you love her and that your memory will never fade in her life. I will do my best to love more fiercely than I ever have without shame, and I promise to direct that love to your family for the rest of my days. You did good, kitty cat. You did real good. I've never been more in awe of another human being in my entire life. I love you.
All right. Brian, you're up next.
Welcome back, everybody. A lot of you. We're here. Back in 2013, when I put a ring on my wife, Kathryn. I was standing right here. Same microphone. First off, I want to thank all of you for being here and for bearing witness to the passing of my wife. I know that it means so much to her and to my family and to my girls. Thank you, girls. You're so wonderful, and I'm so proud of both of you. And I apologize for the fact that my voice is wavering a little bit. It's going to be all over the place, and I don't care. I'm just going to keep talking. I want to thank everyone, my family, Kat's family, you're my family. Basically, everyone in here, you're all my family. Everyone from Sardos, Scorpion, all of you, my kids' schools. I just see all these people, and it's magical. And Kathryn, what a fixer-upper she was. So I know some of you have heard it before, but I'm going to tell you the story of how we met. Oh, yes, please. Oh. Do you want me to hold you or do you want to sit? Oh, I want to be with you. Real quick ad lib here. My girls have been so amazing throughout this. They've been here for me. They've been my rock. They've been so supportive, and they've been helpful when I've needed it. Really picking up. Making sure that I speak into the microphone. So I want to tell the story of how Kathryn and I met. The real one. So at the time, I know, Debbie, you mentioned I worked at Coffee Bean and you were giving me a ride there. But even before that, I heard from some coworkers that there was dollar beer night on Wednesdays at the Tonga Hut. It was a bar kind of close by. And working at Coffee Bean, dollar beer night was pretty much all I could afford, especially with a daughter to take care of, priorities and whatnot. So being that I didn't go out much or drink on a regular basis, I got way too drunk. I got plastered, actually. I knocked my beer over. I got cut off by the bartender, my wife. I fell out of my bar stool. I told Kat, I told her, just because you're hot doesn't mean you can suck at bartending. Somewhere during this exchange, she was like, "That's the man for me." Yeah, that about sums it up. Now, like Debbie said, I couldn't believe that after that exchange that she was actually truly asking for me to come back to the bar. It just didn't make sense to me. I was like, there's no way. Why would she want to have any? But I went back and we started talking, and she asked me out. Well, she kind of did. She said, "Aren't you going to ask me out?" It was like after 2 hours of talking while she's sitting there trying to tend bar. Do you want to hold this? Oh yeah. Do you want to say something? She's like, the voice of God. No, it's okay. I love you, sweetie. So I went back and, she asked me out and, or forced me to ask her out. And our first date, I didn't have a car. I borrowed a car from my friend. And we walked to Burbank Bar and Grill. We had dinner. And she was the most charming girl I've ever met. Afterward, we walked across the room to, they were having karaoke there, and I sang some songs, and she sang with that beautiful voice of hers. She put her hand on my leg, and I was like, tell me whatever it was that I did to make you do that, because I want to keep doing it. We walked back to her place. I walked her home. She invited me in, and I met Chicken Head for the first time. She had one of those giant bean bags, the love sack. They're like about this big. And she's like, "Hey, do you want to run and jump and flip into it?" And I was like, she's like, I'll do it. And she runs and does it. And I was like, well, now I have to do it. So I flipped head over heels for her on my first date. And then we kissed for the first time. I went back to my friend's house and I told him, you know what, I just went on a date with the most wonderful woman in the world. This is what a miniature version of the most wonderful woman in the world looks like. Thank you for protecting my daughter from herself. So tough not having her here. So I immediately fell in love. I told everyone that I met, didn't matter if they were a stranger. I literally, and I'm not exaggerating, I told everyone. I was so floored that I could meet somebody like her. She didn't know that, of course, that I was literally telling everyone. One day she walks into my work at the Coffee Bean and she sees me talking to a customer who happened to be a pretty girl. And, so she walks over feeling like she's about to bust me for flirting. And I'm like, oh, hi. And I introduce them. And I say, hey, you know what? She also lives in Chicago. We were just talking about how you both live in Chicago. And so, Kat's icy heart melted. I went on a break and we fell in love some more. And it went on and on like that. On our third date, I told her that if I were to marry her, that I'd be the happiest man for the rest of my life. I continued soliciting everyone that I met for Valentine's Day ideas. Literally, strangers I didn't know. What are you doing for Valentine's Day? What are you doing for... The world was my round table discussion to make sure that, I had the perfect gift and also met my meager budget at the time. So I ended up getting a heart-shaped pizza from Chicago's Best because some guy I met at the mall had like a little flyer for Chicago's Best and had like a promotional deal, and I was like, it's perfect. And I got that and 2 flowers, one for her and one for Ellie, who got to meet her for the first time. And we had a wonderful pizza dinner on Valentine's Day. So that was, the rest is history. She and I changed each other so much. Like I said, I want to fix her upper. She made me want to be a better person, and she inspired me constantly. But more than that, she forced me to be a better person. She made me stop playing video games. I became an adult. It was 3 months after we met that I moved in with her, and she then took motherhood on full steam, and she fell in love with Ellie so quickly. I was so surprised at how fast she matched my love for my daughter and how she took that on. She went from watching Bad Girls Club, where girls are literally spitting at each other in the face, to watching Super Nanny religiously, reading articles, and I'm not half the mother she is. So, I moved on from the coffee shop to working in the ER, and then she got a job working part-time editing videos at an internet marketing company, Scorpion, then Scorpion Design. And that turned into one of the best things that's ever happened to us. After taking the leap to work there full-time, she eventually convinced me to work there too. And when I tell you working with my wife at Scorpion was the dream come true, even if you work there, you don't realize how amazing and how fortunate you are. And I didn't. And it never ceases to amaze me how often I take things for granted, how much I take for granted. For those of you here, before we get there, in 2014, Kat gave birth to Scarlett, and we added something special to the family, and there was more magic in our home than ever before. There's something magical about a growing family. Quite the opposite. With the opposite. She's the best mother I've ever seen in action. I'm so grateful to her for the way my girls are now. I get to stand in a room with all the people that are here to honor her. She made everything better, more fun, and on time. She used to joke, or I used to joke, that she was the family archive, but it wasn't really a joke. She would remind us constantly of funny things we'd said and happy times we'd had, things I'd done wrong. Felt like we had everything. And I had more than I ever possibly wanted. In 2017, we found out that she had cancer. And as you've heard by now, she fought that disease tooth and nail with every ounce and every fiber of her being. And as brilliantly stubborn as she was, she lost a little ground every day. Despite everything, she only ever managed to increase the amount of love that she showed me and my daughter, and daughters, plural. And she never gave up hope. Even on the last day, I remember her planning her next moves to fight her way back to health and start her next treatment plan. I never gave up hope either. So obviously we're here today because of the sad result of that fight. It's the saddest and most unbearable tragedy I've ever experienced by a million times and more. At the end, I let her know that despite my previous claims that she was in fact the funnier of the two of us. I miss her. My family misses her. My girls miss her. We all miss her. I'm so blown away that you all are here. This means so much. I'm overwhelmingly grateful for all the support that every one of you has provided. Thank you. That's it.
All right, Brian.